What is up, IDP Army? What is up, fantasy football fanatics? It's your man Jordan Reigns at 50 Shades of Drunk. Do me a big favor before we jump into the top 10 most shocking NFL draft surprises, things that we're going to talk about that are going to be strategies that are going to help us in our rookie drafts. Go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel. I promise you won't be mad that you did. We have a good time. And while you're at it, go check out the podcast feeds. We have 2 different podcast feeds with 4, 5 different podcasts, depending on, maybe some things that are cooking up in the background. So we appreciate everybody that follows along there. But like I said, today we're not going to have a crazy deep dive into the NFL draft, but we are going to talk through some of our early thoughts now that the draft has wrapped up. We've had the, undrafted free agency stuff has kind of started, and we're seeing teams settle into what they're going to be in the 2023 fantasy football season for us. So, Billy, how you doing, my guy?
I'm doing good. It was a whirlwind weekend here. There's so much to talk about. I don't even know. I don't even know how we're going to cut it to 10, but we'll get there. I have
10. That's just for the SEO. We'll talk.
I was about to say I got 50 if we need to, 60 maybe.
Yeah. Well, year 3, I finally wised up to the fact that, the words that are written in the description don't actually have to match up the content. Isn't that crazy? Took me a while to figure that out, but 10, 20, whatever. We will put timestamps in this because it will be kind of long, and we're going to start putting timestamps in more stuff. Now that we're getting that time of the year where, these decisions are going to start to be solidified. There's going to be a little less time, a little less market moving, so that you can maybe correct or adjust mistakes or perceived, what would the right word be, investments into your fantasy future. So let's just get right into it, man. The draft started out round 1. We had a live stream, 4 hours. It's all on the channel. Y'all can go back and watch it if you want. But let's just talk about that first round. And we're going to go offense first. We're going to go position by position. We're going to go defense, position by position. And we're going to work our way through and just until we're done. So let's just start round 1. Let's start quarterbacks. Just go ahead and talk to me.
Okay. Obviously, I think the biggest winner was Anthony Richardson, as we kind of talked about on the live stream. Him being put in Indianapolis is just, it's a dream come true. Shane Steichen worked with Justin Herbert. He worked with Jalen Hurts, and those are, 2 of the top quarterbacks in the league. And now he's getting a fresh clay to mold in Anthony Richardson. And it just couldn't have worked out any better. Honestly, if you're in a super flex league, this is your 101. I know Bryce Young and CJ Stroud got the higher draft capital, which is going to be a talking point for a lot of people. Seen a few things on the timeline about the Colts maybe wanting to pick Will Levis if Anthony Richardson wasn't available. So maybe that's a problem in some way. But I think that was just them having a backup plan. So I think Anthony Richardson is the real deal. I realize that he only started 13 games in college, which is a little scary. But at the same time, he is the 101. He's got every tool that you need. He's going to make a major impact as soon as he gets on the field.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was too. It just really was the landing spot dependent for him. Everyone's like, "Oh, Bijan's the 101. Bijan's the 101." And I'm just like, I just disagree. I'm not gonna get on Twitter and start arguing with people, fighting with people, necessarily talking with people about it. But I just don't agree. I do not think that Bijan is the 101 in Superflex. I think that it should have been or could have been Anthony Richardson before it even was Anthony Richardson. But when he got drafted to the Colts, it's just the only thing that makes any sense is for him to be the 101. The most upside, the most raw athletic guy, but not even raw. It's like it's polished athleticism. It's top end athleticism. So it's not somebody that I'm going to be wanting to shy away from in my rookie drafts. And at 101, I think about a couple of years ago, all that I saw people give up to get Trey Lance. You know what I mean? You have one bad year with Trey Lance. And, people are kind of falling off a little bit now, and we're a little down on Jalen Hurts. But when a guy fits the mold, just get him on your team and see what happens. That's kind of where I'm at. So CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and then Will Levis. Next guy's off the board there at quarterback. What do you think Will Levis is going to kind of be in these rookie drafts? Or what kind of order do you think we're going to see in these rookie drafts? Maybe that's what I want to ask you. Because we're in rookie drafts right now,
Right, yeah. We have one starting literally in 30 minutes. The But I think Anthony Richardson at a super flex draft would be number one. Obviously, I honestly after that though, I think you got Bijan. You've got a conversation about who that next pick will be. I don't think it. That's how I would personally do it. But I can see why other people may be
Well, I want to talk.
concerned.
I
And
want to talk.
saying,
Okay, maybe I phrased that wrong. What do you think about this quarterback situation? So it's super flex, and we know Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young are probably going to go quick. And the CJ Stroud, but every year, in your drafts, it's easy, in the offseason to be like, oh, this is what'll happen. This will happen. But every year, somebody, very meaningful players fall. I have a feeling Will Levis is going to be that guy this year that's going to be available a lot later than he should be. And to think about this, the Colts were talking about taking him at 102. So if the draft capital in the NFL makes us push him down rookie boards, I'm looking here in this draft, I'm 112, I won the league, no big deal. Maybe I'll take Will Levis. This isn't a super flex, but at the 112, it's unlikely that he'll be there, but I think there are leagues where he will be there, and I think he's going to be a massive value of these quarterbacks.
I did my rankings of what I thought super flex drafts, and I had him at the 205 in a 12-man league. Because A, I don't think he's going to get on the field right away. B, don't think he's great. I think there's a big reason why he fell into the second round. I mean, we've seen players in the past that have overcome the second round draft value, Jalen Hurts being one of them. But it took a lot to get to the point where Jalen Hurts was actually playing football. Like, I don't think people remember that. They weren't like, okay, we're going to hand you the reins. I mean, they weren't. They just weren't going to pay Carson Wentz anymore. Which it's like, okay, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think Will Levis gets on the field right away because I think they're going to still start Ryan Tannehill. And I think he's still got development problems. He's still got to get to a point where they feel comfortable actually putting him out there to start. I don't think he's going to be good right away. I don't think he's going to be good at all. But, I mean, eventually he might turn into something. Tennessee, not the greatest hub for making quarterbacks better, as we saw with Malik Willis. I don't know. I don't like this for him. I have him as my biggest loser of the draft because I don't like where he landed and I don't like how far he fell. I don't love that.
All right. Well, there you go. There's two different opinions. I'm looking at him kind of as a guy that, me, I'm always talking about how I don't have many first round picks, so I look for these guys like this that could have potentially been top end guys and they go in the second round. That's kind of how I attack my rookie drafts. But, interesting.
It concerns me that nobody went up for him at the end of the first round to get that fifth-year option for a quarterback. That concerns me a lot. I know there was talks or whatever that they were hoping. They didn't do it. Like, that's the thing. They did not do it. So it's a red flag for me for sure.
Fair. All right. Any other thoughts about the quarterbacks? We didn't really spend a whole lot of time here because we were going to try to cover all the positions. But talk to me about Bryce Young. Talk to me about Stroud. Talk to me about Hooker. Just give me kind of an overall kind of picture of how this draft went and how you think it's going to affect the players that are already there and that kind of thing.
Well, I had two more quarterbacks I wanted to touch on that went later. Hendon Hooker is one. We kind of think Jared Goff's days eventually are going to be numbered, but this couldn't have worked out better for Hendon Hooker. He ended up behind Jared Goff. They know he knows he's not going to start right away. Jared Goff knows he's not going to start like this year. I think it's a good chance for him to get into an offense where he can develop, he can learn the plays, he can learn what they want to do, and then just seamlessly take over for Jared Goff when they're done. I don't think they're going to re-sign Jared Goff again. And I think they just leave it to Hendon Hooker to take it from there. And then I wanted to mention what the Rams did. They took Stetson Bennett, and I'm utterly confused at why everybody considered this a big win for the Rams. Because A, he's older than Tua, he's older than Justin Herbert, he's older than Jalen Hurts, and he's not good. So I don't. They took him in the fourth round of the draft, which makes you think like, oh, well, they only had 4 or 5 picks. That must mean that they're going to try to get him out there right away. For what? He's not going to win you anything. Like, it's not like the Rams are going to like a quarterback away or they're even competing. Like, I don't really get what they were doing with this. It makes no sense to me that they took him this high. And I don't really get what, the whole process is behind why they took Stetson Bennett. So that was a really confusing one to me. I don't think people should fall for it. I mean, there is a chance Matt Stafford doesn't play this year because of the neck injuries, but I don't really get why they took him. That don't fall for it is what I'm trying to say, I guess, in short layman's terms.
Yeah, I don't know. He's not going to end up on the back end of any of my teams. He's a guy that won't. Yeah, he won't. Yeah, I just don't. I know the Rams are. I don't know. That just looks like a pick that they didn't really know what to do with. Kind of like you said. It's just
He's going to be 30 at the end of his rookie contract. That's not a joke. He's 30 years old at the end of the rookie contract.
Yeah, that's no bueno. That's no dice.
In the fourth round.
Okay. What did you think about Mingo ending up with Bryce Young in Carolina? Because obviously Mingo getting drafted or, Young ending up there is, cool or whatever, but it's like there's not really any weapons there per se. Miles Sanders and then ... like what? So Mingo, they add Mingo at the top of the second. What are your thoughts on that kind of mesh? How does he fit in that offense?
So, I think he's got a chance to be the wide receiver 2 right away. I still think they're going to lean on Adam Thielen, even though he's old. He's going to get the most amount of targets, I think, right out the gate. But after that, there's a wide gulf between like the Terrace Marshalls, the Laviska Chenaults of the world. And this leaves Mingo a perfect chance to get in there and get his hands dirty pretty fast. I don't see how behind Miles Sanders and Thielen, there's not a large target share. And there's a good chance because of rookie mini camps and all that Mingo and Bryce Young are going to get in there and make, some kind of connection right away, which I think is going to be very powerful for him starting out in the league. And I think we could see value from him right away. I was just in the Best Ball Mania 4 draft last night. I got into one and Mingo's going really late. And I think that he's potentially a steal that hasn't caught up yet because they don't really have, I don't think, an accurate projection for him for being a second round pick and for being on a team that needs a wide receiver.
Yeah, listen, y'all, we're going to get to Mingo in a minute, but just think about this. Like, he's in a great opportunity. He rose during the draft process after kind of falling during his college career because the production wasn't necessarily there, but the talent is obviously there. And the hype kind of built up around him. First wide receiver taken day 2. We've seen a lot of the wide receivers right now, they're at the top of Dynasty rankings, were day 2 guys. A.J. Brown was a day 2 guy. Justin Jefferson wasn't a day 2 guy. But, he slid pretty far down. In this draft, he would have been a day 2 guy, right? How many guys went? Basically, I think he was the 5th guy taken. He would have been a day 2 guy. Yeah. So you have to think about these things. And I know it's actually not as big as an issue as it used to be. 2-3 years ago on, I say draft and fantasy Twitter, because that's where most of the conversation happens. Draft capital was, it was it. It was the holy trinity was draft capital, dominator rating, and then what was it, hand size 40 times? I don't know. It always changes though for these people who claim to cling so tightly to these religions and these metrics. It changes. Just like Bijan was the 101 when we had 4 quarterbacks. Now it's, it just shifts. So just be aware of the fact that just because Jonathan Mingo wasn't cool, maybe so-and-so wasn't high on him 2-3 weeks ago, in 6 months, when you flip on your Twitter and that person's gassing him up, they're not going to apologize to you for you not drafting him. They won't.
Literally, it'll take one
decision. You got to see what's happening out here around you, and you got to, attack. Jonathan
It'll take one video from rookie mini camp of Bryce Young to Mingo, and then suddenly Twitter's going to be like, sleeper.
Yeah, he'll be a top 3. Like JSN, people listening to people try to say that JSN is the top rookie wide receiver. I'm just like, no, sorry. Literally, no. I don't care how good I don't care whatever. No. He has 2 elite wide receivers on his team, not bums. Not guys that have to prove anything.
Right.
2 guys that if they say we don't want him on the field, he won't get on the field. Like, it's like that, okay? 2-3 years from now, he might be good. He might be doing some serious thing. He might be the next Doug Baldwin if you're lucky. I don't want it. That ain't for me. So I'm going to be taking a lot of Jordan Addison. I'm going to be looking into a lot of Mingo. You know what I mean? Because situations change. The thing with Jordan Addison, too, is people are like, oh, Jordan Addison, he's Justin Jefferson, he'll always be number 2. Always be the number 2 until what? Justin Jefferson tears his ACL, gets offered a massive contract somewhere else. He's almost done with his rookie deal. Things move in the NFL. This isn't a static thing. So Anyway, that was a long Mingo rant. I just say that because we were on Mingo. I feel like I was on Mingo, and I didn't know. I always say this, I don't watch college football. I don't have any priors. I just see what I see, and I'm like, I like that. I like what I see. And I saw
Yeah,
Jonathan Mingo, and I was like, that's my motherfucking dude right there. Like, I know something's happening here. I don't care what so and
for
so
sure.
what's his butt over there say about him. I don't trust those people. They told me to draft N'Keal Harry and Hakeem Butler
Not
and
wrong.
Henry Ruggs and Jalen Rager. I don't trust them. I'll hang with them. I like them. We'll have a good conversation, but I don't trust you. So,
It's true.
anyway,
It's
let's
true.
move on out of these quarterback/wide receivers. Let's talk about the running backs. Okay, 2 guys taken day 1: Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs.
You don't want to touch on all the wide receivers, or no?
Well, we could go straight to wide
Just want
receivers.
to touch on Mingo.
Longer conversation.
Oh, okay. Well, then we can get running backs then, if you
Yeah, I
want.
want to hit the running back because
Okay.
when we start getting bogged down, you know how I am. Like, I just won't stop. So
I feel you. Okay.
let's talk
Let's
about
do running backs.
Yeah, because it'll be a handful. It'll go a lot faster. Bijan, Gibbs, talk to me. What do you think?
Okay. Bijan, obvious 101 in non super flex drafts, obviously. I mean, he's going to have a huge share of the workload. I mean, Joe's said it a million times, like the Falcons want to run, and they finally have a running back that they can trust on the field for all 4 downs, as much as he can be out there. Tyler Algier, this was a huge loss for him. I mean, he's going to have to take the L there, unfortunately. And Gibbs, while it started out looking like, why did they do that? I think I have come around to actually, it makes a lot of sense. Like, I think that David Montgomery there is going to muddy the waters at first, but I think as the year goes on, it's going to be kind of a wash. I think you're still going to get a lot of value out of Jahmyr Gibbs now that Swift is for sure gone to the Eagles. I think that this opens the door wider for Gibbs to get on the field more often. I think David Montgomery's going to fill that Jamal Williams role, which is scary for Gibbs because that's a lot of touchdowns left on the table. But, if Gibbs is better than Swift, that could mean the touchdowns don't end up in David Montgomery's hands as often. So I think that this is a good opportunity for Swift or for Gibbs, and I still think he's the 102 now, like for sure.
Yeah, I think Gibbs is. Everybody took they had their day where they just dogged the Lions. Every smart guy, everyone with a PFF subscription, whatever. But it's over now. They made their move. They got their guy. They got a younger running back. They're gonna get a lot of work out of him. Yeah, they probably drafted him a little high, but the reality is this team isn't a bad team. And the positions they need help at are linebacker, and they need running back help. I mean, it is goofy. It's not normal to just actually address the position you need as your organization in the NFL draft. I know it's crazy to actually do that, but especially when the outside pressures are to do all the plus EV things instead, so that the next guy coming in, he gets all the players up and coming on the good contracts, and he gets to get all that. But I'm we saw them move on from Swift. We kind of knew they wanted to do that. I like Jahmyr Gibbs here a lot. I think you're right, though. It's not – for fantasy, we're going to throw a big old bitch fit, but who cares? I mean, the Lions are a good team. They have great players. They added a great player. I love it for them overall. Bijan, I think his ceiling is kind of going to be similar to what we saw, honestly, from rookie CMC, where it's like we know he's good, we know he's the best, but it's just like your team is shit, okay? And I don't care how good their offensive line is in Atlanta. I don't care the offense is young and
they have a bad quarterback.
Rough, it's young and rough. These guys aren't, there's no real veteran presence that's like, this is how we do this. There's nobody like that. The quarterback is, he's a puppet. We know he's not really there. So it's like, there's no real, I don't know, the synthesis that comes together when you're on a team with guys and you're like, all right, let's go do this. Like, I know what you can do. I know when you're like, that's not there yet. They got a bunch of guys that can play really good football. Hopefully they can all stay healthy this year. Hopefully they do well enough to make fantasy managers happy and bad enough so that they can go get an actual good quarterback next year. And that's kind of the best scenario. So I think Bijan this season, I think it's going to be a lot like Jonathan Taylor's rookie season, or CMC's, where it's like, or even Josh Jacobs, where it's like, yeah, he's the top guy on the board. Yeah, he's the best, blah, blah. That does not mean that he is a guaranteed lock for a top 3, even a top 5 fantasy finish. And I think that if you draft him thinking that, are hoping that. I think that it's a lot closer to like a 60-40, where it's 40 going that way, not 60.
Well, I think your biggest hope for Bijan is if you're in like a regular redraft league, is that you can get him on the turn, the like 12-2-1 turn, because that's honestly where you're going to get the best value for Bijan, in my opinion. If you do draft him in the top 6, you're hoping a lot is going to happen, because like if you end up taking him before, say, like Tyreek Hill, and he doesn't do as well as Tyreek Hill, you're going to feel really dumb by the end of that, because you're going to be like, well, I thought this was going to happen, but like I thought maybe this was going to work out differently. But if you take him on the 1-2 turn, it's like, okay, I only thought of him as the 12th or 13th best player, which is okay. That is an okay ceiling for him, in your expectations at least.
Yeah. Actually, looking back on rookie running backs now, it's actually crazy. I'm trying to think. I mean, besides Saquon and Zeke, they've all pretty much been not great. I mean, Fournette.
We haven't had one in a while.
Gurley was injured when he was a rookie, but Derrick Henry didn't do shit as a rookie. Derrick Henry didn't do shit the first 3 years he was in the league.
He was a second round pick. A lot of people forget Derrick Henry was not a slam dunk first round, like off the board.
Gordon, same thing. So
Taylor,
we're not shading Bijan Robinson, the talent. Okay, we're not shading Bijan Robinson, the fantasy player. We're shading the idea that Bijan Robinson is going to be that last piece of your Infinity Stone this year, or even a piece of that Infinity Stone this year. I think
just don't overthink it. It'll be fine.
A back end running back one, a high end back end running back one if he's lucky.
That should be like, seriously, don't overthink it. That should be your expectation, honestly.
All right, let's move into round 2. Quickly, Space Monkey Mafia here. Appreciate the comments. Anybody watching, feel free to comment. We'll bring them up. We'd like to talk and converse with y'all. The biggest takeaway for me was the fact that Pollard and Pacheco avoided competition landmine. I've been trying to tell people.
I have this written down too.
Is the real deal. The real deal.
He is. I actually have this.
You can go trade for him already.
I have this exact thing written down about people that avoided competition landmines. In my opinion, Dameon Pierce. Well, the Pollard and Pacheco, I have those. Dameon Pierce, because he only has Devin Singletary there, and they didn't address the position in the draft, so Dameon Pierce should get the first crack. James Conner, they didn't add anybody. Behind James Conner right now is Keontae Ingram. Guys, like everybody out there, you need to take the hint about James Conner. They clearly are going to work him into the ground this season. So, like, I don't want to say this is a Josh Jacobs situation, but they didn't add anything meaningful to the running back room for now. Obviously, there's a lot of free agents out there they could add. Javonte Williams, they added Pirine, but they did not add anything behind him. Cam Akers, surprisingly. They did add Zach Evans, but as I've been telling everybody out there, Zach Evans is not it. And the fact that they added him in the 6th round or 5th round, whatever, does not mean that Cam Akers is in trouble. I think this means further that Cam Akers is, solidified. They got 3 more. Miles Sanders, they didn't add anything to him. Chuba Hubbard's number 2. As Jordan will tell you, Chuba Hubbard ain't that guy. So Miles Sanders is still the number 1.
I was here when Chuba Hubbard was the Devy running back 1. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. I was here for
and that's the running back 2 in Carolina, so you don't have anything to worry about there. Josh Jacobs, they didn't add anybody in Las Vegas, so he's good. And then the third and final one, or last one, is Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford. They didn't add anybody there. They could still bring Kareem Hunt back, but they haven't yet. But they didn't add anybody in the draft in Cleveland for running back. So you've got the Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford. If you have Jerome Ford on your bench, he's good to stay there for a little while longer, because it looks like at least they're going into the season with him as number 2 on the running back depth chart.
All right, let's just talk about what people actually want us to talk about. What about the top 2 running backs from last year? Breece Hall with the Israel, what is his name guy, got drafted there kind of late. Yeah, but then also we had Zach Charbonnet go in behind Kenneth Walker. I love it. I think people, again, it's kind of like the Gibbs thing. They're way overreacting. What's one of the only positions that the Seahawks need help at? Running back. And then I also saw, I think it was Sharp Analytics. We talked about him a couple of times, over at the Ringer. He said, nobody's drafted more running backs in Seattle since 2016. And I'm like, yeah, but look at who they've had. I mean, every one of those guys has gotten hurt. It's like Rawls, Collins, Christine Michael, DJ Dallas, Chris Carson,
Rashad
Rashad Penny. And that's just the ones I can think of. And that, I mean, we know there's a lot more guys. I mean, Carlos Hyde was there for a second too, right? I mean, there's just so many guys who have been there that things have not worked out. I mean, just, they haven't gotten a guy who's durable yet. Zach Charbonnet looks pretty durable to me. I've seen Kenneth Walker run. He looks like he runs like Thomas Rawls and Christine Michael. So if I'm Pete Carroll and I see a big ass second round running back sitting there, and I need a running back, my number 2 running back again is DJ Dallas. Let me say that again. Our number 2 running back is DJ Dallas. I'm going to take him. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just do it. I don't think this is going to, I mean, it's like AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. But the thing is, and from what I know about Pete Carroll is he likes Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is going to be the guy. He's not going to overcomplicate like some of these coaches. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that Charbonnet. Good God. Working in the service industry is ruining my life right now. He's going to get work, but he's not going to get a lot of touches. I feel like he's probably going to be like maybe get 30% of the snaps, carries, kind of something like that.
Well, I was thinking if they ran 30 times in a game, it would probably be like 18, 19 for Walker, 11 maybe for Charbonnet.
Yeah, I wouldn't even give him 11. I'd give him like 6, and then I'd give DJ Dallas a couple because that's what Pete does. He gets everybody out there. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, but I think the main thing to take away is don't let it scare you off Kenneth Walker. I saw people like, oh, Kenneth Walker's my dynasty running back 14 now. I'm like, he dropped down to 14 because they drafted a second round running back? Like, talk about a little bit of overreaction.
Yeah, quite a bit. So, I feel bad for Sean, though. I was hoping he would go somewhere where he could be featured, but it's how the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Well, okay, let's play this out. So let's say the Seahawks are cursed, and let's say Kenneth Walker does get hurt again. Guess who's gonna be a big fucking deal all of a sudden? Like who?
Well, I mean, that's really what happened. They had Rashard Penny last year, and then Kenneth Walker was there too, and then Penny goes down, and Walker was the guy. So.
Draft him. If you have Kenneth Walker, you should just draft Jack Charbonnet. It's simple. Like, and that's the other thing too. In Dynasty, everybody's like, "Oh, I want to get the next big thing." No, solidify your positions. Draft your quarterbacks backups. Draft your running backs backups. If you got a stud, get his backup. Make sure you lock up that backfield. Don't let somebody else sit on a guy whose value is going to spike, massively overnight. He needs to be sitting on your bench. So you don't have to freak out when that happens. And you just, you know what, Kenneth Walker, you take a week, take 2 or 3. I got a spot for you. Zach's been keeping it warm on the bench. I mean, this is Dynasty. Use your head, y'all. Okay. Any other thoughts on the running back situations? I'm not really in the market for a running back, so I didn't pay over much attention, but I'm interested in what you. I saw.
I got a few. Kendre Miller was one. He lands with New Orleans. It's a perfect landing spot. If they really do, they've been hinting at maybe moving on from Alvin Kamara. Kendre Miller is perfect to fit in that role, and if he honestly gets the fair shake that he should, then Kendre Miller is going to be a steal. I think he should be looked at, early second round of Superflex drafts, maybe even the back half of the first, because I think he's going to get on the field very quickly there. I really do.
Wow, that's bullish. That's very bullish.
Yeah. Well, the Saints were a really good landing spot for a running back. I got a couple more. Roschon Johnson landed with Chicago. Roschon Johnson is really freaking good, and I know that they have Khalil Herbert. I know they have Dante Foreman. I understand all that. I just think talent is going to win out, and Roschon Johnson, I think, is better than both of them, and he's going to get eventually the lion's share of the work there. I just personally think that.
Right in the heart of my Khalil Herbert love out here.
Yeah, I have Dante Foreman, so I feel it. But the worst case scenario.
I'm glad you have Dante Foreman. Khalil Herbert, way different. He
was a sixth round running back, so I hope he's special. But also got Tyjae Spears. He ends up in Tennessee. I know he was the draft darling for literally everyone out there. They wanted to make him the RB1. He lands with Tennessee, which is like, damn, that's a pretty damn good spot because Derrick Henry, although he's a cyborg, he's eventually going to go down. He's eventually going to power down, and they're going to put him back on the shelf. And Tyjae Spears is now, the heir apparent there to take over. 2 more. I got Deuce Vaughn in Dallas. Pollard did not get any kind of, crack at his work share there at all because they didn't add anybody really. But they did add Deuce Vaughn, and he's a very dynamic player. I think he's going to get on the field. Don't know if he's going to take any meaningful snaps, but it's somebody to watch at least. And then
where'd he end up?
Dallas.
So they have Pollard, Vaughn. Anybody else right now?
No, I think they're going to bring back Zeke. I really do. But at the same time, I don't think that's a Vaughn share. He's like 5'9", like not necessarily.
Is he like a Naeem Hines comp? Like, what are we looking at here?
He's Darren Sproles. He's more like a speedy, quick. Yeah, I guess. He's not as tall as Hines, but, I mean, he's essentially the same.
He's going to make some plays, though, basically. He's not just a throwaway piece necessarily.
No. I don't think so. And then his dad also works for the team. There's that really emotional video where his dad ends up calling him and getting him drafted. And I don't know. That might mean that he gets a little bit of a bigger help there.
He's more of a stash, though. Would you say? Like, how would you categorize him?
Stash, but like if somebody gets hurt this season, he could be on the field quick. And then the last one I have for the winner is Tank Bigsby for Jacksonville. A lot of people are still on the Travis Etienne train, but I'm here to tell you, Tank Bigsby is a guy that should be getting in there and getting some of those touches, especially goal line work. I think they're going to trust him. Last year they were using Etienne and I forgot one other player. I forgot who it was now off the top of my head. But
JaMycal
they were using there you go, JaMycal Hasty. Bigsby, yes, actually it was. You're right, and Bigsby's better than him, so Bigsby's going to get on the field. I think he's somebody that people need to be worried about.
Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne is just another DeAndre Swift, who's just another Miles fucking Sanders. These guys who get shoved up into the top 10 of dynasty running backs, and they literally will spend their entire career never actually having finished anywhere close in a single season to that. Travis Etienne, ladies and gentlemen. I'm having some Tank Bigsby. Again, that's why these second round picks are going to be juicy. Travis, maybe Tank Bigsby doesn't do anything this year, but next year when they don't pick up Goober's 5th-year option and he run off somewhere and Tank Bigsby is looking at 340 touches on the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence
this past year. So there's nothing stopping Bigsby other than potentially Travis Etienne getting a couple touches. He wasn't even getting that many touches if you look back at it. Like that's a workload.
I heard he was special.
People thought that.
Well, the answer is clear. Stop focusing on trying to please an unpleasable group of losers on Twitter.
People don't forget.
We never use our drops, but we should.
Definitely should.
All right. Talk to me about Devin Achane, because that's another guy that I think I'm going to be getting a lot in a second.
The problem is he ended up in where all running backs go to be a part of a work share. Like he landed in Miami, which they already have Mostert. They already have Jeff Wilson. I'm pretty sure they have like 5 other dudes down there. You're getting a slice of pie.
I don't understand. I'm going to say something. I think just from a personal perspective, I think that like the group running back thing as like a knock isn't really a thing, because every team has a multiple group of guys, and depending on a game, they may choose to engage more players or less. Now, some teams don't do that because the talent isn't as good, but I don't want to hold it against Achane that he ended up on a team that has amazing, talented players all around him. All I see is a guy who, when he gets his touches, has an even higher opportunity of cashing in on them because of his talent, because of the talent of people around him. Now, I know it's hard sometimes to that balance between like, is he going to be really good or should I get a lot of volume? And I think I know what you're saying, because Mostert's awesome. We know he could be amazing on a per touch basis. Jeff Wilson gets it done. But the reality is, Mike
and Waddle are both going to get touches too. So
the reality is, Mike McDaniels isn't going to put a single player on his team that isn't going to be worthy of touches. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just one of those coaches. That's kind of like Kyle Shanahan, where it's just like everyone on the offense is worthy of touches. Same with the Chiefs. I mean, really, if Andy Reid decides to highlight somebody, they're going to have a game because Patrick Mahomes is throwing them the ball. So I don't want to hold it against him that he's surrounded by that much talent. And I just want to say that from my perspective, I don't knock him for his situation necessarily. I think it's it's like a fucking crazy high powered offense. So I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I wanted to jump in there just because you kind of started.
No, I mean, you're not wrong, and he did get a pretty high. I mean, the Dolphins only had like 4 or 5 picks this whole draft, so the fact that they used one on him should mean that Mike McDaniels was on the hunt for somebody of his stature. I hate that it's a big pie and he slices the pieces so thin, because then it's like, I don't even know when you're going to be able to tell people to play him week to week. I mean, if you're just hoping for a flex position, I guess, but I don't know. It's just tough for me to tell people to play him because you won't know when it's going to be his week to be featured. That's the frustrating part.
That's the part of fantasy, though. Again, I would just rather have him on my team, And again, if you draft him,
that part you're not wrong, especially Dynasty.
Yeah, as a high-end Dynasty flex, I mean, yeah, he could be great. I mean, that's what I want. I want a guy. I mean, I had Brian Robinson in that league I pulled up here. I mean, that's what he was, a flex, won with them. Rookie. I mean, I didn't expect a lot. You don't have to have a lot. You just have to have some contributions. So, all right. Any other running backs that we need to touch on before we jump into the wide receivers?
I don't really have anybody. I wish Israel Abakanda had not ended up with the Jets. I think that's going to be frustrating. But yeah, that's really it.
Oh, it's 100% going to be frustrating. It already is frustrating. I mean, let's just be real. So, all right, let's talk about wide receivers. Do you want to just? I'll hand it off to you. Go.
Okay, I got a lot written down, so let's just go through it. All right, I'll just pause so that you can make comments. Jordan Addison, I think, is number one. He ended up in a great spot. He is the way to go right away behind Justin Jefferson. Kirk Cousins cannot throw every ball on the entire offense to Justin Jefferson, so he's going to need a valuable number 2. We saw that with Adam Thielen. And I think that Addison has a chance to fill that role. I don't think it's going to be KJ Osborne. I think it's going to be Jordan Addison sooner rather than later for them. We already talked about Jonathan Mingo in Carolina. Perfect spot for him to end up. He's going to be in rookie minicamp with Bryce Young, number 1 overall pick. So that's going to get him touches early and often, I think. And, although, eventually I think it's going to be Adam Thielen's work. They don't really have a tight end there either, so I think there's a good chance Mingo could be second in line for touches. Maybe you're fighting with Sanders. I don't know exactly how they're going to run that offense, but he could be number 2 as far as touches go. All right, going to KC. They drafted a second-round wide receiver in Rashee Rice. Now, we've been down this road in the past where KC goes with a wide receiver, we get all really hyped, and he ends up being Sky Moore. I am completely
for the record show. I was never for a single second hype about Sky Moore. There were people on Twitter that were very hype about Sky Moore. All right. And I won't mention any names. I got in some arguments with some of them.
Well, the answer is clear. Stop focusing on trying to please an unpleasable group of losers on Twitter.
And I held my ground. I said, I don't give a fuck about what your opinion on Sky Moore is about all his deep metrics. I don't believe he's going to be any good. And you can argue that he's a great pick in round 6 till the fucking cows come home. You're an idiot. And guess who was right? Okay, anyway.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But they did draft him in the second round.
A best ball and redraft. This wasn't no like pick him late and Dynasty. This was like waste a pick kind of shit. People were arguing. Smart people were arguing.
So you got Kadarius Toney there. I think he's probably the number 1 to at least start out the season. But I think there's a chance that Rashee Rice could make, a potential move to be one of the premier pass catchers on the team. Still got Kelsey there. You still got the running backs. I hope they sign Jerick McKinnon back because I liked his role on that offense. But I think Rashee Rice has a chance, at least out of the wide receiver group, to be, the number 1 there. Isaiah Pacheco is good, so they don't necessarily need McKinnon, but that workload is there for the wide receivers for Rashee Rice. So I think that is a guy that we should be paying attention to. Tank Dell.
Well, think about this. People ran. People sprinted to draft Mecole Hardman 105 in Superflex. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because we were scared Tyreek Hill might disappear. So and it makes you wonder, like, is this a massive value sort of arbitrage opportunity? The fact that Rashee Rice isn't screaming up boards just by that proximity. And I think what happened was so many people, I mean, everybody wanted to say Tyreek's gone, so this is my guy, Sky Moore. Exactly. I mean, Sky Moore is going to get all the targets. And then there was that one guy, you know, it was like, well, it's going to be Scantling. Or then there was the one other guy who's like, well, it'll be this guy. And they were all wrong. It was Kelsey. So now, because
Yep.
they've all burnt, nobody wants to even peep about Rashee Rice. I hear a little Justin Ross talk out here. I mean, please stop. Like, please, like, just turn in your badge. That's not happening. So we have a huge arbitrage point right here with Rashee Rice, a player the Chiefs drafted. They want him. I mean, they didn't have to take him. They took wide receivers. They got all kinds of wide receivers running around out there. They picked him, and everybody's quiet as a motherfucking church mouse out here because they were wrong all these other times. So that's
Nobody wants to be the first one to say it, but let's be the first people to say it. Rashee Rice is
say it. Jonathan
gonna be
Mingo
fine
and
in this
Rashee Rice are going to be the two top rookie wide receivers in this class for this year.
wow. Okay, well that's
For this year, Jordan Addison, I mean, he'll be close, but
okay. I was about to say I feel like Addison, but you're right. Top 3 for sure. All right.
and
Moving
Rashee
on.
Rice is going to do everything they said that Sky Moore was going to do that they won't say that Rashee Rice is going to do. Rashee Rice is going to do.
I think so. I wasn't super impressed with him when he was at the Senior Bowl, but he's got Patrick Mahomes now. That's
No,
a big
I say
Band-Aid.
that I'm actually a lot more bullish on Tony. Realistically, I think he's the one. But I mean, Rashee Rice is going to massively outperform Sky Moore. I mean, Sky Moore didn't do fuck all last year. I think what do you got, like 300 yards cumulative,
Something like that for sure. Okay,
That's
moving on to
good.
yeah, exactly. Tank Dell went to Houston. This is kind of a similar situation with Bryce Young and Jonathan Mingo. You're going to have CJ Stroud in rookie minicamp. You're going to have Tank Dell in rookie minicamp. Now, Houston does have a couple more guys that might actually get some run before he would get a chance. They have Robert Woods. They have Noah Brown. They have Nico Collins, who's everybody's hoping that this will be finally the year for him. But they did use some pretty decent draft capital on Tank Dell. He's a little undersized, so you know that's going to be a struggle for a lot of people to get behind him. But at the same time, he is a perfectionist route runner. I mean, he's that's where he burns and turns people. And I think CJ Stroud's going to love having a guy like this on his team because he can throw it to him 5 yards out and he's going to take it to the house. So Tank Dell is somebody that at least you should get on your teams. I don't know how high he's going to go in drafts. That's going to be interesting to see where the like ADP is for him, because in my opinion, it should be like second, back half of the second, early third. But I think people might be totally off of him because, you know, they're like, oh, he's 5'9". I don't want him on my team. But
well, his name didn't come up at all really during the lead up. You know, the Senior Bowl came up and then it was silence until he was drafted, basically.
It's true, but he landed in a good spot. All right, next one is Marvin Mims. He went to Denver. He was the last pick of the second round, I believe. And Denver has a lot of turmoil going on there. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton have been on the block for pretty much the entire offseason so far, and nobody's traded for them.
In every dynasty league.
Denver clearly is like, I know, Sean Payton's come out and said he's not trading either of them, but I mean, why in the world are those the loudest rumors then of any wide receiver that's going to get traded? Why is it Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton? So that's very odd. So I think there's a chance if either of those guys go for Marvin Mims to get in there right away and start working with Denver. Sean Payton picked him pretty high. So I think that this is a chance that Sean Payton might just like the guy and might try to get him in there. And I think this, you know, a guy that you can get kind of later in Dynasty because people are going to see the three people ahead of him and not be all in. So I think this is a guy you could easily get and be useful this year, possibly.
Mims, eh? All right.
Mims.
There's a guy whose name I don't really know anything about. I'm definitely going to be bookmarking him in my drafts because, again, you know, I'm always looking for those upside guys late. Mims sounds like the perfect guy for that. And you know, when you think market value, he's on Denver too. There's a lot of fair weather Denver fans out there. They're quiet in your leagues right now. But if Russell Wilson starts the season 5-0, Marvin Mims is suddenly going to be a hot commodity, whether he did anything or not. All it's to take is one catch, and you're going to be able to flip and grip. So that's how we dynasty around here. So you got to think, think about the team you ended up on. Denver, those fans are quiet now, but they'll care soon. Think about, in your dynasty and your late picks, these things matter. These are qualitative variables that make a big difference in fantasy.
It's true.
Green Bay fans, same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, just find these fan bases and be like, I know these people are thirsty for what they want. They're quiet now. They'll come back around. Buy low, sell high. Simple.
It's true. All right, the next 4 I have, it's just basically landing spot, and then we'll kind of go back to the players. So the Giants drafted Jalen Hyatt as their first wide receiver. Wide receiver was a pretty desperate need for them, and so the fact that they felt that Jalen Hyatt was the guy that they wanted to get in there, I think he's going to get a work share pretty right away. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be the number 1 because Jalen Jones isn't exactly, a huge thrower, but he still needs a number 1 target.
But when you're the de facto option, it doesn't, like you said, it kind of doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, kind of like Kenny Pickens. I didn't really realize last year, like, Kenny Pickens, besides Deontay Johnson, when you're just the next guy around, you just kind of end up with production. Whether your team does good or not, it's just like, even if it's not a lot of catches, sometimes these guys end up with a lot of yards because it's like their desperation late game throws. You know what I'm saying? The only guy open. So.
Next one is Indianapolis. Obviously, you think they need a number 1. I also think they need something else in there, and they got Josh Downs from North Carolina. I think that was a perfect spot for him. The best thing is that Anthony Richardson is going to need a guy like Josh Downs. I mean, he's going to throw some like 50-50 balls, which is what Michael Pittman can only do. But Josh Downs is more of a guy you throw it 10 yards and he takes it another 30 or 40 yards after the catch. So I think Josh Downs is going to get in there and get dirty right away. I mean, I was trying to talk up Isaiah McKenzie because he went in there. He was the only slot receiver. And then they went and drafted Josh Downs to put in that role. So Josh Downs will now be the slot receiver for the Colts. And I think Anthony Richardson's game, especially for the first couple, or, for the first season at least, is going to be a huge slot guy. So Josh Downs is going to be a guy that people need to get on their teams.
Yeah, Josh Downs. I mean, again, it's Michael Pittman's. He's had every opportunity with every quarterback under the sun to be special. I said it on the stream the other night. I put on, you can watch 3 minutes of Garrett Wilson playing football, and you'll see more last year in his one season on the Jets. And you'll see more special things happen than if you watched every single snap of Michael Pittman in the NFL.
True.
Okay, so let's call it what it is at this point. So hopefully Josh Downs can come in there and light a little fire, maybe be something special. They do need, they just need to beef up that team. They've had the run game for a while now. I mean, by the time the team gets good around him, Jonathan Taylor is going to be gone. So maybe Josh Downs can be that spark. I don't really have any other wide receivers I had on my board. Those were mostly all the guys through 1, 2, and 3 rounds. Any late flyers that you want to touch on before we move on? We are going to talk about a little bit of defense.
Just 2 because of where they landed. And one's Kayshon Boutte. He went to New England. They do have Juju Smith-Schuster there, but they're going to Mac Jones. They want Mac Jones to throw the ball more. And Kayshon Boutte will have a chance to be the number 2 on that team, even though some of the garbage that they have also there, Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, those guys. I think Boutte has a chance. And then Michael Wilson for Arizona. If they really are going to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins, they keep saying they're not. Austin Ford, the GM, continues to say they're not going to.
Nobody wants them. I hate to be the one to let people know this. Nobody wants DeAndre Hopkins. Bill's Twitter wants him. Bill's Twitter wants DeAndre Hopkins.
He's still really talented, so I don't really know why. I mean, I guess they don't want to give up the draft capital.
The only people that want DeAndre Hopkins are the Arizona Cardinals in Bill's Twitter. Now just let that sink in. Okay.
I think Arizona just may want too much. I think
would say that Bill's Twitter is thirsty for every good. Bill's Twitter is thirsty for every good player that's available or even kind of available. So there's that. Cardinals have some piss poor judgment. So there's that.
Well, fair enough. But Michael Wilson is going to get a good opportunity with Arizona if they do get rid of him. Even if they don't, he still provides them with a different aspect to their team that they don't have now. He's really tall and, could get on the field because they got, slot receiver in Hollywood, or they can put him on the outside. And then they got DeAndre Hopkins, but they don't have anybody that's like 6'3", which is what Michael Wilson brings to the table. So
all right, we're not going to talk about tight ends because one of my 10 commandments of fantasy football is we don't talk about rookie tight ends. I mean, I've done it once or twice as a favor to people, but it's a waste of fucking time and a waste of energy. So we're going to move on. And we're going to start talking about some defense, all right? So I'm just going to read off these are my rough rankings. I know we'll do a real show, a more in-depth show probably tomorrow or the next day. It's going to be IDP related as I kind of really solidify this, but I wanted to drop these out there. So these are kind of my rough IDP rankings as they are. I got Will Anderson at the top of the board right now. I got Jack Campbell, Luke Van Ness, Tyree Wilson, Isaiah Foskey. Then I got Brian Branch coming in next, Will McDonald, Miles Murphy, and Drew Sanders. Only 2 linebackers in that group. Drew Sanders coming in for Denver, and then Jack Campbell for Detroit. Let's just kind of go ahead and talk. A lot of edge rushers got drafted. We know for fantasy purposes, edge rushers take a little while usually to develop, and they don't necessarily put up the most points for your fantasy team. So usually as a rookie, if you're wanting production, which you can get rookie production from rookies in IDP, you're looking at your linebackers and your defensive backs. So Jack Campbell is probably, if you need production this season in IDP, Jack Campbell is going to be the guy that I would want to put on my team. Now, long term, if I want to build around my edge, Will Anderson is going to be your guy. That's kind of very clear and apparent. So you're going to have a decision there at the top. Both of these guys don't really have much competition. And both top guys at their respective positions in this class. And they're both going to be available to you in your Dynasty rookie drafts, probably mid-second, maybe even back of the second this year, just because I feel like because of the kind of the weaker nature of the offense, people are going to be trying to get their offensive guys thinking they won't slide as much. What are your thoughts about that kind of first group of guys? And then I'll read off my second group. We get into some more safeties and linebackers.
No, I think the unfortunate part of this year is there's no real big linebackers. I mean, I have some written down, but they're kind of shots in the dark, if even that. Mm-hmm. But you're right; it's an edge rusher class. If you need a linebacker, you're in a tough spot because this just wasn't the year for it. Mm-hmm. I think Jack Campbell is going to be the guy that you kind of rely on if you need that. But other than that, you're going to maybe trade.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about Brian Branch. He gets drafted to Detroit, right? Now they have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Tracy Walker, and they have Brian Branch. I'm not against it. I saw some people were a little worried about it. 3 safeties, especially on a team that knows how to use all 3 safeties in the right way. And these aren't just safeties. You know what I mean? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson isn't just a safety, and Brian Branch isn't just a safety. So I don't see them necessarily eating into each other's production per se. I just think their roles are going to be a little more complex to forecast. So a lot of people are going to just try not to, or just say it's not going to be very good. I'm still very much in on Tracy Walker, and I'm in on Brian Branch. I'm a little less in on Chauncey Gardner just because he's a little bit more or less of the tackle guy. He's always, even going back to New Orleans, was a little bit more in on the big plays, pass deflections, interceptions, forced fumbles. He's a disruptive guy. Still love him, but of the guys in that group, he'll probably be the last one I draft maybe. But I think he has a lot of week-to-week upside. Any thoughts about Branch, where he ended up? And then the next safety, let's just go ahead and talk about the safety group, actually. Brian Branch, Sidney Brown, Jatavius Martin. Those were, and then there was Jair Brown. Those are the 4 defensive backs that I had written down that I think are going to be potential year 1 impact guys. What do you think?
I have one more to add to that list is Antonio Johnson he went to Jacksonville. I'm shocked that he went as far down as he did.
I saw that. I saw that was a big story yesterday.
Antonio Johnson? He plays like a linebacker. He plays like that. So the fact that nobody thought they could use a guy like him on the team, Now, the knock on him is that sometimes he's not the best in coverage, but if you're going to have a package where, like, you need to run stop the ball, like he is a tackle guy. Like, he had over 100 tackles last season. So, like, he is a guy that you're going to – I don't know. I don't know what nobody else saw in him that didn't make him go higher in the draft, but he needs to be there because Jacksonville is going to use him right away. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I saw some stuff that said he was most people's top 50 big board player.
Yeah.
And he went in the 200s or something, or was it 170? It was very late.
I'll have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure it was like the 5th or 6th round. I mean, it was really late.
That's a good player to add on there, definitely with that defensive back grouping. And you're right, because Jacksonville, they're not a very deep. Rashawn Jenkins is like their main guy last year. He's like 27, 28. This probably takes them out of the Budda Baker sort of conversation, which I have a bad feeling he's going to end up back with Arizona, unfortunately. Poor guy. What do you think about Sidney Brown ending up with Philadelphia?
I mean, I hate that the Eagles nailed this draft so much because they needed a player like Sidney Brown, and it fell right to them. And I mean, they had to trade up for him, so I don't want to make it seem like that, but they were able to get him into a spot they felt comfortable trading up, and he addresses a need they had right away. I mean, we were wondering what they were going to do to replace Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and they went and got Sidney Brown for it. So it's like, damn, they had a frustrating draft for a lot of NFL teams, I'll bet.
Yeah. Yep. And Sidney Brown's that when we were at the Senior Bowl, a little smaller. I called him kind of like a little honey badger type guy, but it's like you said, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, he's going to slide in, and that's the kind of role that those guys play. They're not going to stop Derrick Henry coming up the middle necessarily. They'll probably try. They'll get in there for the half a tackle, but they're much more going to be, you don't see him coming and he picks you off. You know what I'm saying? And it's just because he can cover ground faster than you think, because, smaller, I mean, literally, it's physics. Smaller people can move quicker because they can accelerate faster. I mean, it's just physics. You know what I'm saying? It's just a different thing, and these guys have different edges. So I think that was a pretty smooth pick too by the Eagles. When I saw he went to the Eagles, it was really annoying because it validates kind of that he's a good player, like you said, like we kind of thought, but it also is like annoying because it's like, oh, of course, the Eagles get to get him.
Dude, I'm glad Josh isn't here. The Eagles absolutely destroyed the draft. Like, I know that we don't know how these players are going to turn out, so anything could happen. But like, just in terms of like addressing needs, as far as like making moves that made sense for them, they just completely destroyed this draft. And like, they even end up with DeAndre Swift in the end. Like, man, Howie Roseman knew what he needed to get done in this draft, and he did it. And I just.
And they basically went undefeated already last season.
Yes. And then they let all these players go, and everybody's like, well, how are they going to reload? They're letting all these guys go. They're not paying them. And then they just do a draft like this, and it's like, who cares, right? Like, what are we even out here doing? It's like the reverse Rams. Like, the Rams just, like, trade all their picks and get all these guys in there. But like the Eagles are like, we're just going to draft all these players that we need on our team. It's crazy.
I just think it's important that everybody remembers that as little as a year ago, there were people that were unironically saying that Aaron Donald was the best player in the entire NFL.
Yeah, they did.
And I literally haven't heard his name come up in like 3 months.
What does that say about,
What does that say about anything?
Right.
I don't know. I'm just a casual observer of the sport.
I know.
All right, so let's go ahead and touch on the let's touch on the linebackers. There's only really 4 that I had on the board that I think are going to be maybe immediately relevant. I'm gonna, obviously when I do my rankings, so go deeper than that. Probably like get my top 8 to 10. I don't go super duper deep. I'm not gonna drop you. I mean, you guys know how it is around here. We play to win. We don't make fantasy content to like feel good about ourselves because we made fantasy.
I'll add my guys in after that if you don't have them.
Yeah, and Billy's guys will be the guys that losers have. So easy to figure out. All right, so we got Jack Campbell, Drew Sanders, Deion Haley, which the Chargers. I think he has a chance to be a real big.
Nailed it.
Yeah. And then Trenton Simpson went to Baltimore, which
Don't
I
love
saw
that.
some rumblings that Patrick Queen might be toodaloo.
I hope so, because I was frustrated with them drafting Simpson, knowing that they have two linebackers there that are definitely ahead of him on the depth chart.
Well, what I read was they have to decide by tomorrow if they're gonna give.
Oh yeah. You're right.
Whatever.
You're
So
right.
we're gonna find out
Oh,
today what's up with
man.
Patrick Queen. Either way, that's good for Trenton Simpson. It's good. I'm
Yeah.
not down on Patrick Queen by any means, but it's going to shake up that area, and I think that Simpson's going to be a guy. He'll definitely fall probably into the third or the fourth in rookie drafts, and you should probably be targeting him there. So,
Right.
any thoughts on those guys? What do you think about Deion Haley? Obviously.
I mean, talk about the perfect player for the perfect team. I mean, they do have a couple linebackers there. They still have old boy that's been there for a while. I forgot what this guy's name is.
Kenneth Murray, not doing much.
Kenneth Murray, and then the guy they just got from Minnesota,
Eric Kendricks.
Yeah. But I think developmentally, I think he may end up starting at some point in the season, because one of those players, not Eric Kendricks, is not the best at being a linebacker. So, and it's frustrating because he did go to Oklahoma, so I don't want to besmirch him too much. But, I mean, he has not been what he was billed to be, and that's very frustrating, especially for them, because that defense was horrible last season. And that was supposed to be the strength of the Chargers when they went out and made all those moves last season. And it was not. It was the opposite of that.
I don't know how Brandon Staley isn't like on the hot, like isn't constantly talked about as a guy who should be fired. It doesn't make. He hasn't done anything good since he's been there. Nothing. I thought he might have a good year this last year. Nope. Joey Bosa. Nope. Nobody.
They went out and paid J.C. Jackson, and J.C. Jackson was horrible last season, just horrible. And I mean, maybe it's J.C. Jackson, but it can't be that everybody on the team had a horrible season. If it's, we got to start.
He's not a good coach. It's one of those things where he got hired because he's friends with Sean McVay and they went to the Super Bowl. It's just the NFL media nepotism monster. You know what I'm saying?
He coached the greatest football player of all time. So, I mean.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
So, I mean, if you coached him, it's kind of like anybody who coaches LeBron. Like, well, he coached LeBron. So,
yeah.
Get him in here.
Obviously, he knows what he's doing.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Well, I was going to say I have two more to add real quick. Noah Sewell got picked up by Chicago. They did just sign two linebackers. So, I mean, the chance of him getting on the field this season, not really there. But he's a good taxi squad guy because he was projected to be one of the first round pick at the beginning of this past season. So the fact that you're going to be able to get him, potentially undrafted in most rookie drafts, depending on how big the draft is. If it's 10 rounds, probably not. But if it's only like 5 or 6, you'll probably get him. And you can just stash him there, just leave him there. Let him cook a little bit. And then maybe we can get him in there next season. But he was really good, and I think that he's going to be good. The other one I have is Henry Toyo from Alabama. He went to Houston. And I think D'Amico Ryans, who also went to Alabama, I think he picked him for a reason. Now, given it was the 5th round of the draft, so like not a huge amount of faith, but I think the opportunity for him to get in there and get his hands dirty right away is higher on Houston, because I think they, D'Amico Ryans is kind of evaluate the defense as a whole, because I don't really think other than like Petre, they have like ingrained starters. Will Anderson's in there right away. They don't. I think that he has a chance to make an impact this season. So he's a guy I would look out for. Don't know if he's going to get drafted in most leagues, but he's somebody that you can at least stash after undrafted free agent.
All right. There's a handful of names for y'all on the IDP front. Obviously, like I said, we'll go deeper in on those on its own show. Like I said, I'm going to do that either tomorrow or the next day. I'll drop the full rankings. And again, we're not going to, it's not going to be a master's or doctoral dissertation on these guys. I'm just going to say, how they fit in, kind of what they did in college, maybe look at an early projection. I did want to, from the defensive line spot, there were 2 other guys, and we kind of just browsed over them, but I missed. I wanted to bring up BJ Ojulari, went to Arizona. They need an edge rusher, and I think he's going to get pretty quick, immediate play time. Felix Uzama. I missed his middle-ish name there,
And
but
Duke Uzama.
Chiefs took Carl Loftus at basically the exact same pick last year, and he played like 760 some odd snaps. So even at the end of the first round here, with the departure of Frank Clark, with the departure of Carlos Dunlap, the edge is pretty wide open for the Chiefs. So want to keep an eye on Felix. Also, I just think the name Felix is a good name, so I love bringing him up. And then Nolan Smith dropped to the end of the first round as well. He went to the Eagles, we mentioned already. They have needed help with edge rusher for a while. They, people kept trying to say Josh Sweat was good and Barnett, whatever, was good. And that just, and that worked for a while until Hassan Reddick showed up and was actually good. And you literally never heard those guys' names again. And then they brought in Quinn. Didn't really work out. He's gone. So I think that there with Nolan Smith, there's a very good chance that he just ends up being that guy that gets out there. Because, again, Josh Sweat and Barnett, the only reason anyone knows who they are is because people like me have to talk about them because they're the guys who play edge there. They're not good. Okay? And Barnett, Barnett's he's a little bit of a shady player. Anywho, that's it for me. You got any? What?
No,
I mean he did some shady things to Tom Brady. I've seen Barnett do shady things on the field.
I like it. I just have one more player I want to bring up because I love this player. The whole draft process, loved him during the season. It's Julius Brent. He's a cornerback that went to the Colts. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. Like, I think that he is going to be the guy that's like, wow, this cornerback has 10 interceptions. Like, I think he's going to be one of those guys where he's going to have that like weird year where he gets a lot of interceptions.
Look at his division. He gets to play against Stroud. He gets to play against a bunch of rookies, Lawrence, basically young kids.
Yeah, and then Will Levis. So Will Levis loves to throw interceptions.
Interceptions will definitely be plentiful.
But I like Brent's, and although he's a cornerback, I think he still plays more like a safety. I know they're not ever going to call him a safety, but he can play that position, and I think that he will be a hybrid of sorts, and I think that will lead to him playing and getting a lot of help. Hopefully he's not a lockdown corner, which never gets thrown on, but if he is, still going to get some interception opportunities.
Excellent. Had a question here from KJ Fuller. He said, how good can CJ Stroud be? Well, he's in Houston, so I mean that's going to limit some of your upside, I think, just in a general sense across the board. I don't know. What do you have a CJ Stroud take? How long is it going to take for him to really be good?
So the one thing working against him is that it's a defensive-minded system now. I don't love that from them. I think DeMeco Ryans is going to build up a really good defense. He's going to do what they did in San Francisco. That's where he came from. That's what he learned under. And he learned that you build a really good defense, and then the offense can kind of just do whatever they want. It doesn't really matter as long as we have a good defense. That scares me a little bit.
Sorry. I want to time out here because this actually comes back to an even more fundamental thing, which I kind of, we're talking defensive players. Defensive players don't view themselves as doing defensive things. They are attacking. Edge rushers are attacking the football. Defensive linemen are attacking the quarterback. Corners are attacking they're bumping and grinding up on wide receivers. Safeties, they're hunting. You know what I'm saying? These guys they don't look at defense. They look at the ball and they attack the ball. And I think as fantasy people, we look at offense and defense and we're just like, the defenders are defending. Like they're standing back trying to stop things from happening. That's not what they're doing. They are actively engaging in things that we're kind of choosing not to engage in. And when I really kind of realized this was, and I'm sorry, this is a little offbeat, but I was doing some research on, plays on IDP. And I was like, what's the most powerful play in IDP? Well, it's a strip sack, fumble recovery, touchdown. And I was like, how many points is that? It's a buttload of points. But I was like, why is it so many points? It feels so much. Because you're doing the most impactful play a defensive player can do, which is turning over the ball. You're doing it to the quarterback, the hardest player to actually get a hold of. And now once you've done that, the ball's on the ground. You are now not just a defensive player, you're an offensive player. So you pick the ball up and you run to the end zone. So now you've done something an offensive player will never do. They're never going to do the most meaningful defensive play in football and then immediately follow it up with the most important play in the game, which is score a touchdown. Defenders are the only guys who can do that. So in reality, they're playing offense just from a fucking handicap almost, you know what I mean? Without the handicap, they're still trying to get the ball. They're still trying to take it to the house every single time. Shout out to Nick Bolton, who should have had 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, but whatever. That shit is meaningful. That shit is powerful. And I think that as in fantasy, we just say, oh, defense, but it's like they're defending against that team scoring, but they're still on a team that's trying to score themselves. They're just in a different situation. And it's a very interesting sort of thing. And I just want people to kind of remember, like, defensive players are not truly defending the field. They're attacking the other guys, trying to disrupt and take the ball back. That's ultimately what they want, is to force a turnover, whether it be on downs, third, punt it. That's a turnover. That's what they're doing. They're trying to get the ball back. It's an attack. So I just think from a psychological standpoint, when you kind of think about things like that, you can view the game a little bit from a fantasy point of view. I think it's helped me. It honestly has helped me watch football differently, appreciate plays a lot differently, and just like really kind of value some of these players and some of these things that in the past I just didn't really get or didn't think about or didn't engage with, because I was just like, it doesn't overly affect me. And I wasn't forced to think critically about it and evaluate what I thought about it.
It's true. Okay, well, circling back after that with CJ Stroud, the offensive coordinator that they brought was the passing game coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers last season. So I do think that will give him a good opportunity to learn the position. And I mean, we kind of saw, I think, funny thing enough is I think CJ Stroud might be the best quarterback this guy has worked with, because he was passing game coordinator for the 49ers, who Brock Purdy, we're talking Jimmy Garoppolo, we're talking Trey Lance. I think CJ Stroud's better than all of them. So I think this will give him a good opportunity to see exactly what he's doing or what he can do. So I don't think that it's necessarily bad. I'm hoping CJ Stroud can be what he was during the final game of his college career against Georgia, which was an absolute masterclass against a very, very, very good defense. And I hope that's what CJ Stroud is. Hopefully he can use his legs a little bit, be more mobile. And I think he's gonna be fine, as long as they don't do too much with him.
Good. And I want to just cap off what I was saying to circle back around. Like you said, I was saying, because you said DeMeco Ryans the defensive coach. He's drafting and getting a defense together offensive minded. He wants to get the ball back to his offense. So he's building his defense. He's like, oh, he's getting more opportunities. Maybe they're not going to maybe every, only on 3 out of 10 drives are we going to score. Well, I better make sure this kid gets, 12, 15, how can I get 10 extra drives a season, 20 extra drives a season? That's having good defenders, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what I was saying, where it all plays in, defense is part of the offense and offense is part of the defense. So I think fantasy, we've segmented it off to a point to where like our brains are just like, oh, it just gets so tedious listening to people like, oh, I don't really understand defense, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you just are choosing not to. Like it's not complicated. Like you're an adult human being. Like stop talking to me like you're 3. I don't get it. Okay, but this is your life. Like you make $60,000 a year to talk about this, and you don't know who the backup for Aaron Donald is, the best player in football. You don't know who the immediate backup is. Anyway, all right, Caleb.
That's why like Mike Clay's like wide receiver cornerback matchups just like blow people's minds, and it's like, well, if you knew the defensive players, you would know what was coming. Like it's not mind blowing science that Mike Clay's doing. He's just learning defense, which it'll make you better fantasy football player. It'll be
crazy concept to understand
the
players.
Fantasy football if you knew him.
How dare you challenge me? How dare you challenge me to be a better person? Don't you know that I have 7,000 words to write about Bijan Robinson in Atlanta? Don't you know that?
It's true.
Don't you know people need more Bijan Robinson analysis? All right. Dude, we should we expect Deion Hanley to take over? Yes. Kenneth Murray's dead. Garbage. Okay?
I all but said it earlier, but I can't do that to my boy Kenneth Murray. But
Expect Drew Tranquil type numbers. That's the dream.
yeah,
That's the dream.
it is. I hope so.
How do you feel about Daxton Hill? I haven't really felt any type of way, but I mean, obviously, that feeling of not feeling anything is growing into a feeling of feeling something.
The thing I don't love is that they went out and got Jordan Battle from Alabama, and he's a safety. Don't love that because that makes me feel like there's a little bit of a competition just starting out. But we'll see as camp goes on. That's going to be one to monitor, I feel like, as the summer goes on, what they do at safety in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I know they got rid of their mainstays there with Von Bell and Jesse Bates. I know I'm pretty sure Mace is a big fan of Daxton Hill.
He was a first-round pick last year from Michigan, and a lot of people, he's been a taxi squad darling for since he got drafted.
Well,
but
we'll spark him up, him up, boys. See how he burns. Whoa, you guys are up early, bro. We're up early all the time. We just do.
We never sleep. 24-hour stream. Just kidding.
Yeah, this stream. Yeah, we never stop.
We've been going since the draft started Thursday.
All right. Well, I don't have anything else. I think we did a pretty good job just as a general overview of the top 10, top 15 kind of things to look at, situations, players, whatever. We're going to be on the channel recapping all the rankings over the next week. You know what I'm saying? I'll go through each position. I'm going to tell you who to look for in your rookie drafts. If you are not in the Discord, go join the Discord right now. That's the best way to get a hold of us. Get on Discord or on Twitter at us. We answer all the questions, okay? We don't ignore you. I've been in – I mean, it's depressing out here in some of these huge Discords, y'all. I mean, people begging for fantasy advice, with 80, 90 analysts just cruising through there. Ain't said shit in months. So we don't play it like that. If y'all want some real help, come through. We will help you make the right draft pick. We will help you avoid the landmines that the 80% of the consensus will push. We will help you find those contrarian picks that are going to get you that upside. It's going to differentiate your teams and really set you up to, be that winner we know you are. So any final thoughts or words before we send the people out of here?
I'm glad you asked. So if we can just quickly rank the tight ends, Dalton Kincaid to Buffalo, good guy. Sam Laporta to Detroit, fills a need. Michael Mayer to Oakland, fixes Darren Waller's absence. Luke Shoemaker for Dallas. They needed a tight end. I know he's just another name on the board, but he is there, and I like that. So those are the 4 tight ends I got.
All right. Just remember, if you use a rookie pick.
Don't start him, though.
If you use a rookie pick on a rookie tight end, you're going to get exactly what you deserve. So.
Don't get Kincaid. He's going to go really high. Don't get him. Or Michael Mayer probably will go too, just because he's a name. But Sam Laporta and Luke Shoemaker, take those guys late.
Go back on all those guys in 2 years. 2 years.
Well, they'll be on a team, so you're going to have to trade for them, unfortunately.
No, they'll be out there. They'll be out like Tyler Conklin, just out there floating around the waiver wire. Top 14, top 12 tight ends. They're free. All right, y'all. Subscribe to the podcast. Make sure that you leave a comment. Tell us who your rookie sleeper is. And we will be back soon. Offense, defense, special teams, IDP, best ball, dynasty.